Hey, how you doing? I'm Greg Lumley. I'm a wedding photographer based in Cape Town, South Africa, and this is my real-world review of the Spyder Holster Pro. What is the Spyder Holster Pro? Well, I'll give you a hint. Two cameras sitting on the side of my belt. It's essentially a camera carrying system. And what makes it awesome is that you've got cameras that are easy to get off your belt, put out of the way, just as easy as that. Why use a system like this over a strap system, which is what most of us use? For me, one of the biggest issues that I started to find was I started to get quite a lot of back pain. I've always used the straps, I've kind of preferred them. I've seen quite a few different systems that you get that allow you to so-called free your cameras, get them at the ready, etc., etc. And I didn't like any of them. I thought quite a few of them looked pretty stupid, I've got to be honest. I stumbled across the Spyder Pro one day when looking for something else, and I loved the idea of it and the practicality of it. Truth be told, I still think it looks a little bit cowboy, but hey, what you going to do? The practicality far outweighs the look of it. And as you can see, this is what I wear normally when I go and do a wedding. It's an extremely subtle system. It's nice, it's neat, it's tidy, it doesn't kind of look corny. So let me go through a few points about what is good and what is bad about the system. In my experience so far, there are a couple of things that are bad, but they're more minor in my opinion than anything else. The good outweigh the bad by far. So good points. It's easy to use. Very easy to just whip the camera in, get it back, same this side and back. As quick as that. And as you get used to it, you can often do so without even looking, which I think is pretty awesome. Another big plus for me, a massive plus for me, is the hands-freeness that you have. I work with a lot of off-camera flash. I very often work alone. I sometimes prefer working without an assistant. And I'll often be moving lights around or light stands around. And when I'm doing this, having a strap pretty much like this as you're moving things around can be a bit of a pain in the butt. The other thing that I find is that if I actually end up having to fetch something out of the car, or as I'm preparing for a wedding and I've just arrived, you get this what I call Tyrannosaurus mode. You'll be reaching into the boot of the car's over here, and then you find yourself doing this so that the camera doesn't slip forward. The other thing as well is that the camera ends up bumping the car. And then you've also got this problem as well, which can be extremely annoying. This camera system allows me to reach into the car and not worry about bashing, bumping, etc. And I find it extremely liberating. It takes the weight off your shoulders. Suddenly you're not finding yourself actually using your shoulder to hold up the camera, which, I mean, a camera's not a heavy thing, but over a period of time, you'll be leaning over to one side. And that's where I started to have problems. You'll notice the cameras do swing, but nothing by comparison to what a strap does. Have a look. Get that in over there. Get that in over there, and you can see there's a bit of motion. Cameras are nicely put out of the way, works brilliantly. But as you get a bit better with the system, you'll start to notice that you start getting quicker and quicker, and you have to look a lot less, and you start to get a lot faster. What I've found is a little touch on the wedge, so to speak, makes a big difference. You don't really have to look. As you can see, it's pretty subtle and it's actually quite comfortable. It's like wearing a belt. The only problem that I have kind of found is that I often wear a belt as well underneath this, and the two can kind of clash with each other, so I get a little bit of irritation, but you kind of get used to that. Another nice thing about it is that because it's so subtle and kind of fits in with everything, you can actually get into a car with it. So you don't have to take the whole thing off and disconnect. And if you do, very often what I'll do is just take the camera, put it on the back seat, and then get into the car. Whereas other systems, you might have to put both cameras on your lap or take the entire system off. One of my major concerns was the safety of my equipment while I was using this thing, because essentially you put these things on the side of your waist and you kind of forget about them. You need to know that the cameras are going to stay where they're supposed to, number one, and number two, the belt itself is not going to let go. Well, the belt itself works with a 3-stage clip. You can only release the clip by clicking top, bottom, and middle. You cannot release in any other way. And of course, the advantage of this is that if you happen to bump either top or bottom, which is most likely, it's not just going to suddenly let go. When it comes to the attachment system itself, it's also extremely well made. You have a plate on the bottom of your camera that has a ball joint in it, and that ball joint slides into a slot on the actual clip itself, or the groove for want of a better way of saying it. The groove is made out of a solid piece of aluminium. I believe it's die cast, and you can definitely feel that it won't let you down. So I've spoken about all the good points, but what about bad points of this system? Well, for one thing, I've found that it can be quite noisy when you put your camera into the slot. And that doesn't matter when you're outside, but when you're in a very quiet environment, say in a church that's very quiet, or just one of those general environments where you can hear a pin drop, it's obviously something that you don't want, because you definitely don't want to draw attention to yourself. Another weak point that I've found is that it gives you quite a wide footprint. So you can see that I'm actually quite wide, so to speak. I feel very hippie. And the thing of this is that when you're walking through a very busy environment, that there might be a lot of people, or where tables are crammed together, obviously this becomes a problem. So you'll actually see that in my case, I've kept my straps on. And the reason for that is that if I decide to, I'm able to actually then just simply put my cameras back on the straps and use them. And then if I need to navigate, I'm able to actually just make myself a little slimmer, so to speak. Like many other people, I don't wear a watch, and that's where I find that the belt can kind of get in the way, because you can't really get to your pockets. And so what I find then is moving the belt over to one side will allow you to get into the pocket. Or alternatively, you can actually put your phone or whatever it is into your back pocket. So another thing that I also find pretty cool about it is that as you can see, the way that it sits, the camera kind of sits horizontally. So that means that if I go down on my haunches, then the camera doesn't hit the ground. Something else to consider is that when you end up with a flash, is your flash going to bounce off the ground? Because I don't know about you, but I mean, I'm up and down all the time, and often my camera is very close to the floor. So when I actually put a flash onto the camera, then it would normally be like that. Then if I go down, you'll see it's actually pretty safe. And of course, that's fantastic. Well, in conclusion, yes, I would recommend this to a friend. I think this is the kind of system that once you've started using it, you just won't go back. I certainly found that. I've been using it now for nearly 3 months, and I don't leave home without it. And in fact, if I do, I come back and fetch it. The only problem I'm a bit worried about now is that if I end up going traveling as a tourist on a personal level, I'm going to feel like a bit of an idiot carrying this thing around, but it's going to be the only thing that I want to carry. But that's an issue between me and myself, and nothing to do with you. Well, there you have it. I hope you found this review useful, and if you get the urge, please do visit my website.